Former President Donald Trump is no stranger to tariffs. Throughout his presidency, he used them as a cudgel to try to force other countries to bend to his will. Now, he's at it again, threatening to impose new tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada. In recent comments, Trump suggested that tariffs on these two key trading partners could go up. He even hinted that his actions could lead to a recession, a claim that sent shockwaves through the financial markets. Trump's pronouncements have injected a fresh dose of uncertainty into the already complex world of international trade. Businesses and investors are left wondering what the future holds for North American trade relations. Will Trump follow through on his threats, or are these just the musings of a former president trying to stay relevant? The United States, Canada, and Mexico are deeply intertwined economically. The three nations are linked by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which governs over $1.5 trillion in annual trade. Trump's tariff threats, if enacted, would represent a significant escalation of trade tensions within North America. The specter of a trade war with Canada and Mexico has raised concerns about the potential economic fallout. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, and these costs are often passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. This can lead to inflation and a decrease in consumer spending, potentially slowing economic growth. The USMCA, which replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement in 2020, was supposed to usher in a new era of cooperation and economic integration between the three North American economies. However, Trump's recent comments suggest that the agreement may not be enough to prevent a trade war. The USMCA includes provisions aimed at reducing trade barriers and promoting fair competition. However, it also gives each country the ability to impose tariffs under certain circumstances. Trump appears to be signaling his willingness to exploit these loopholes to advance his own economic agenda. Tariffs have a long and contentious history in international trade. They have been used as both a tool of economic protectionism and a weapon in trade disputes. The results have often been negative, leading to higher prices for consumers, reduced trade, and economic hardship. One of the most infamous examples of the dangers of tariffs is the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. This act, passed by the U.S. Congress during the Great Depression, raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods. The result was a devastating trade war that deepened the Depression and prolonged the global economic crisis. Section 5. The high cost of protectionism. The economic consensus is clear. Tariffs are bad for business and bad for consumers. They disrupt supply chains, raise prices, and reduce economic efficiency. While tariffs may provide short-term benefits to certain industries or workers, these gains are often outweighed by the broader economic costs. When tariffs are imposed, businesses that rely on imported goods face higher costs. These costs are often passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. This can lead to a decrease in consumer spending, which can slow economic growth. In extreme cases, tariffs can trigger a recession. Section 6. North American neighbors cry foul. Canada and Mexico have reacted with a mixture of dismay and defiance to Trump's tariff threats. Both countries have vowed to retaliate if the U.S. follows through on its threats, raising the prospect of a damaging trade war within North America. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expressed his disappointment with Trump's comments, calling them unhelpful and counterproductive. He stressed the importance of the USMCA and emphasized that Canada would take all necessary steps to defend its interests. Section 7. China enters the fray. The trade dispute between the US, Canada, and Mexico has been further complicated by the actions of China. In a move widely seen as retaliation for Canada's support of US tariffs on Chinese goods, China recently announced tariffs of up to 100% on a range of Canadian products, including canola, pork, and seafood. China's decision to target Canada highlights the interconnected nature of global trade. Trade disputes rarely stay confined to just two countries. Instead, they often spill over into other markets, creating uncertainty and volatility for businesses and consumers around the world. Section 8. Recession on the horizon. The possibility of a trade war between the US, Canada, and Mexico, coupled with China's retaliatory tariffs, has raised concerns about the potential for a global recession. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has warned that a full-blown trade war could shave as much as 0.8% off global GDP growth. A recession is generally defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. It is characterized by job losses, a decline in consumer spending, and a contraction in business investment. While it is still too early to say with certainty whether a recession is inevitable, the current trade tensions have increased the likelihood of a global economic slowdown. Section 9. The future of North American trade. The future of North American trade hangs in the balance. Trump's tariff threats have injected a significant degree of uncertainty into the relationship between the US, Canada, and Mexico. If he follows through on his threats, it could trigger a trade war that would have negative consequences for all three economies. The best hope for avoiding a trade war is for cooler heads to prevail. The US, Canada, and Mexico need to engage in constructive dialogue to address their trade differences. The USMCA provides a framework for resolving disputes, and all three countries should commit to upholding the spirit and letter of the agreement.